What is a goal that you've reached only to say meh? 6-pack abs. I have ridges on me belly now. Big f-king deal. Yeah, same. I worked so hard and thought it'd be a bigger deal, then I realized that random people, read women, that may see my abs and body aren't likely to pay compliments unless they are drunk. But I get loads of compliments from my gym bro, so that's always an option. Most of what I have done in gaming. Pretty much. So far my gaming highlight was beating World at War on veteran difficulty. I caught all the Pokemon. All 150 of them. I had red version and my friend had blue. He helped me by trading me the ones I couldn't get. There's that guy in Saffron City who says he'll give you a prize if you catch them all. We were so excited, thought he would give us Mew or something amazing. Nope. A F-King certificate to print on a Game Boy printer. Meh. I make a fairly cozy sum of money for my age. Degree. Singleness. And lack of children. I feel like I should be super excited about it. But I'm pretty neutral overall. Money only matters when you don't have any. PhD. I was under the impression there would be some kind of free breakfast sandwich for life kind of thing. Nope. Also, the only person who calls me doctor is my mom. The only real perk is the momentary excitement you see when people first find out you have a PhD. Besides that, it's nothing too special. I thought about getting my PhD, but then realized that I didn't want to be in school for another 3 to 5 years. Really glad I just stopped at my master's. Making 6 figures. I used to be obsessed with it in my 20s. The closer I got to the goal, the less I cared about it. In fact, by the time I crossed the 6-figure mark, I hadn't even realized it until I was doing my taxes, and my actual reaction was just oh, neat. Losing my virginity. Sex is great. It's one of my favorite hobbies. But it's not as big of a deal as people make it seem. Same. Virginity is a dumb thing to hold so highly. I think he cared about taking it from me more than I did. Where did he take it? To the mall? Did he put it in his little pocket? Having a threesome. The girls had a good time and so did I, but the whole thing's a little overrated. But don't get it twisted, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Graduating from college. Especially when you get a degree where you won't get paid too much. Work. Volunteering is my life right about now. Stroke. Just graduated and I'm wondering if I'm going to just have to settle in volunteering. Yes, I know I need job experience. You silly job applications. As a kid I've always wanted to be older. You know. Drive cars. Go to sleep whenever I wanted. Eat whatever. Now that I am. It's just. Meh. Double quote. Even at 21 I dreamed of being just a little older so I could be making some money. Have a better time with women. More freedom, without university and such. At 27. I'm in the same meh boat. I make pretty good money. I can do whatever I want when I want to, but the worries are different now. I definitely don't enjoy the parts of it I thought I would as much as I had imagined. I haven't had any alcohol in 4 months. I feel like it should be a big accomplishment for me considering how often much I drank before. I guess the meh is just me keeping myself in check. Some people quit for years and years and then one day out of nowhere they're right back in it. Plus I feel like celebrating sobriety is kinda awkward. Hey, guess what, man? I haven't had a drink all month. Okay. No, you don't get it, I was a pretty severe alcoholic for a long time. Congrats. Thanks. Double quote. That's how I'd imagine those conversations turning out. Tried coke once. It was cool but not sell your car good. Weird goal you had there. I feel that getting fucking wrecked is a goal we should all strive for at least once in our lives. I got a 4.0 my last semester in college. Was neat for a few moments. Pretty meh overall. Should have spent more time having fun. Yeah, I graduated college W a 4.0. Nobody gives a FCK. Nobody cares. I kinda wish I had made a B early on because it would have saved me some stress in my last year. Had sex? No. It wasn't transformational. There was no epiphany. No sudden revelation or burst of maturity. It was fun. But I didn't see what all the fuss was about. I think the world would be a better place if people didn't make such a bloody fuss over it. There are plenty of things much more important. Being promiscuous. I thought getting laid all the time made you a badass. We both know the gender inequality when it becomes to being promiscuous. It's cool as a guy. I actually only slept with 3 girls from the time I was 14 to the time I was 19. At that time I thought it should be reserved for those you care about. Well, later on when my life crashed, I started sleeping around to make myself feel better. I established 5 friends with benefits relationships whom I'd sleep with regularly, where it was nothing but one of us going to the other one's house, fucking, and leaving. Eventually I turned up the stakes even more, sleeping around every opportunity I got. There were times I left from one girl's house and went straight to the other one. One month I slept with 13 women, which at the time I was super proud of. Now with all that said, there is absolutely nothing cool about it. I soon discovered that it's very self-destructive. Sex becomes nothing more than a physical act and an ego boost. You lose all concept of it being a mutual bonding experience. For those of you who feel inferior because you haven't had many sexual partners, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Believe me, I always hated the minutes immediately preceding ejaculation, where I felt shameful and realized I was only becoming further detached from my emotions. When I moved to where I live in, I stopped the behavior. I've been abstinent by choice for a couple years now, and will remain so until I have corrected the psychological issues that caused me to behave recklessly. It was just one of many risky behaviors I undertook to cope with my undiagnosed issues. I'm just thankful that I didn't contract any diseases or create any children. It could have turned out much worse. Recruited to my dream school with my dream coach for an Olympic sport. Number 1 school in the country for my sport. Number 2 overall recruiting class my freshman year. I spent my entire adolescence and my teens training only to find the NCAA only wants to jam up athletes' athletic programs. The coaches are really only kind of happy when you're performing perfectly and you have a 4.0 and you've sworn off alcohol for eternity. Plus the school sees you and your talent and all the work you've put in over the years as a commodity. Then all of your peers will inevitably give you the "you didn't really get into this school BC, you had help from the athletic department and I had to do 40 hours of community service over my junior and senior years of high school and it was so hard." Most of the people where I went to school had lower SAT than me anyway. They never even sent me my conference championship ring. To be perfectly honest, becoming an Eagle Scout. 12 years of scouting and hard work from elementary school through high school. Turns out nobody actually gives a shit at all. It's a serious accomplishment. You won't get a lot of appreciation from others, but you will probably appreciate it more and more over the years when you notice all the little ways in which having the skills you developed make life richer. I didn't get close to Eagle, but what I learned in scouting has helped a lot in life. Knowing how to hike, camp, navigate, plan and appreciate being in the outdoors can bring a huge amount of enjoyment in life. To say nothing of character development. Most Eagle Scouts I have met have a depth of character that is uncommon. Running. Where is this high everyone is talking about? I took care of that after my half marathon though. But it was just meth. I'm not sure how to interpret this comment. If you are a meth user, then the reward center in your brain is not going to be working correctly. Is it possible that habitual meth use has dampened your dopamine response to anything that isn't meth? Because that's what a runner's high is. It's your body being flooded with dopamine in response to exercise. Your body wants exercise and is trying to reward you for doing it. Your reward is suppressed because your body actually really wants meth, not exercise. I worked really hard and ran a half marathon last year. On some level, I thought crossing the finish line was going to be this magical epiphany moment where I somehow understood the meaning of life or some shit. Suffice it to say, That was not my experience. I was exhausted, felt like shit, and desperately wanted to lie down somewhere. It really was true for me that the benefit was the training. Running the race itself did nothing for me. Same here, I ran 10 miles a couple of weeks before the actual race, and that felt more of an accomplishment. It was my first time ever running that far, and then I also knew that I would be able to finish the race. When I actually did, I was just tired and my legs hurt. Coming back to the US from spending some time in China. I had an amazing time when I was there, and I was sad to go. But I thought going back to the US I'd make some insightful observations about my country. The observations I made were that I was trapped by life. Go to school, get a job, have a spouse and kids and a house, then die. Pay your mortgage, save money for your kids' college education, pay taxes and higher prices for even food, and die. I realized a lot of my life was more or less scripted like everyone else in the US. When I was out of country, I was removed from the burdens of a responsible life and got to just enjoy being alive. Coming back to the toilet paper was just meh. Double quote. I felt a very similar thing when I was in China. It was really just nice to be able to explore Shanghai. One thing I noticed there was the street vendors. They were the same ones every day, but they were doing something they were passionate about or just really relaxed. It was really cool to chat with some of those people. My success on the second try of my driver's test. I failed it in high school, then immediately went to out of state college. So I f***ing waited 4 years just to have time again. All my friends had already been driving for 4 years, and I had just gotten the thing. So no one cared that I passed. And there was no hell yeah I'm a 17-year-old with a car feeling. It just felt like I'm finally doing this apparently great thing for the first time. But everyone around me already knows how to do it, and they were condescending about it. 2. Whenever they saw me having those beginner driver problems, they'd have this look on their face or in their tone that just screams I'm stupid or naive. Because they were already 4 years better than me. You f***ing had to go through it too. Jesus. Just the most anticlimactic feeling ever. Ugh. Published a scientific paper as first author. I had been chasing that for years. Made a ton of sacrifices, imagining how awesome it would be when all my work finally came to fruition. And when it happened, now I have 4 such papers. And at this point none of it matters because I don't intend to go to grad school to continue my science career. How do you become a published author of a scientific paper before your doctorate? I'm European. But I mean, neither bachelor's dissertations nor master's theses count. I always wanted to be a ballerina. On my tiptoes looking graceful. Even though I was too old at the age of 16 to get into it, I still took the beginner classes despite the rest of the girls being like 7 or 8. It was awkward as hell looking like a clumsy ostrich compared to the little girls, but I was determined. Finally, after 3 years I managed to get up to point shoe level. FCK. That shit hurt and wasn't worth the passive aggressive remarks I got from the dance moms. I'll never be a beautiful swan, but at least my feet won't be gnarly. I have snowmobiled since I was a child. And started with a very old Scorpion 350 sled. When I was a kid, I used to ride this place around La Pine, or called Paulina Peak. There is a huge lava and obsidian flow up there. And when it gets covered in tons of snow, it was known as the roller coaster. I tried for years to make it to the top of the roller coaster with the old Scorpions I was using at the time, and could never do it. Fast forward about 12 years. I buy a new sled at the time, and I make a trip with some family to go ride at Paulina Peak. Sled technology has changed a ton since the 1970s when my old Scorpion was made. And it showed. I made it to the top without even going wide open on the throttle. Basically just putted up there. Definitely kind of meh. The change in technology has made snowmobiling easier. I used to have a 1990 Polaris Indy Trail. Sliding that thing in turns. The unpredictability. And the ability to use your body weight to move it is what made it fun. Now it's just sit there and steer unless you're deep in the mountains. Was tripping on shrooms next to a creek. Everyone was trying to climb up on this big rock but couldn't because of the shrooms. I decide to take a stab at it and make it up on top, and everyone is cheering and laughing and happy. I sit down on my throne only to realize it had been getting direct sunlight and was pretty hot and uncomfortable. So I hopped off and said, well, it was a fun journey but not what I wanted. The 5 minutes it took felt like days. I then used it as a metaphor for life or something like that. Shrooms are weird, man. Edit. Thanks for the gold, mate. I ran a marathon. It's a great achievement to do. But all it takes is to be fit. And a few weeks of training to get your legs used to distance and then run really freaking slowly for just under 5 hours. It's cool to achieve it, but the doing it part was pretty boring. Running real slow. Hour after hour after hour. Well, if you set your goal a tad faster it would probably be more rewarding. Just finishing in 5 hours is like setting a goal to be below average at something. My goal is to be not very good at knitting. Double quote. Is an odd goal. Getting into my dream college, aka the one I've wanted to go to for 4 or 5 years. I remember panicking so much over it when I saw my older friends with hella good credentials get accepted or rejected or waitlisted, etc. I wanted so much to get in, but after I did, during early admission, no less, I just didn't find myself extremely enthusiastic at all. Reaching 1000 subscribers on YouTube. In contrast to other channels, it's nothing, but beforehand it felt huge at the time. Imagine in your mind you hear a knock upon the door of your house. You go to answer it to find a line of people waiting for you to post a video. It may not seem much due to the elusive state of numbers. But 1000 people took the time to subscribe to a much smaller channel on a site dominated by larger channels. Take pride in the work you've put in this far. Getting a hand job. It's literally the same as masturbating. Except that this girl doesn't have nearly as much experience jerking me off as I do. I've been jerking myself off for years. I appreciate the effort. But if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. Same thing with blowjobs. I know what I like. I've got the flexibility. It just makes more sense for me to take care of myself. Last year, on steak and BL job day, I just told my GF, hun, focus on that steak. I'm going handle this BJ on my own. And I did half an hour of basic stretches and went downtown on myself. But the day turned out to be a huge disappointment. I couldn't get that horrible taste out of my mouth. She didn't use nearly enough garlic and the whole thing was overcooked and dry. Next steak and BL job day. The GF was just staying at home. Sometimes, you just got to be MR. Solo dolo. Yo. This may be frowned upon. But, New York. Literally just left there to Boston yesterday. Nick was quite underwhelming. I imagined ROC Center to be this massive monument of a tree with a ginormous ice rink. Skating there costs $80 and people propose there. Times Square. Not as massive as it looks on TV. The people. Holy hell. They were so nice. People saying sorry for running into me. People letting me cross roads. The subways were quite dirty but nowhere near as packed. The only thing that lived to the expectations were the subway performers. Anyway, I'm not dissing Nick in any way. I'm just saying my expectations were not met. Also, I'm from California. So my expectations were probably a little off. Sorry New Yorkers. But Boston is f-king amazing. Life adulthood. I have a darn nice job. I'll never be able to summer in the French Riviera. But I really don't have money worries. I own one of my dream cars. A reasonably sized house. Have a great live-in GF. Family is supportive and loving. Etc. And when the alarm goes off in the morning, it's just another day for me. Just like anyone else. It's interesting how I've attained my realistic goals in life. High school me dreamed of a life like mine. But once you're there, it's still the same BS. Just in a different wrapping. Not that it's a bad thing. I have a hard time finding satisfaction in reaching goals. To earn 6 figures in salary. My life is pretty much the same as it was when I was making less. Say 70 grand. The only main difference is I'm paying off more of my loans and I'm saving more. My hobbies have not changed. Martial arts, board games, video games, and I'm still with the same girlfriend who loved me and stood by me when I had nothing. Wall Street Journal did an article way back that calculated the income level of most return on happiness. It was around 70 grand. Further income beyond that either had diminishing returns on happiness, or it actually reduced happiness because of all the additional security, logistical, status, and other wealth related headaches. I was working my butt off to survive at 25 grand. I still felt a pinch at 60 grand. But once I hit 70, my life was smooth and I didn't really have to worry day to day about money. In order to make more than that, I've left my home country and taken up working far overseas. The compensation has increased geometrically, but I can look up from my desk at 11 in the evening and the primary thing it's really going to is my retirement.